Hello again. Welcome to another nighttime adventure with the Dreaming of One Day podcast. This travel podcast works a little differently. With each episode, we'll visit somewhere in the Western Cape, South Africa, with a story that uses guided imagery designed to relax your wild mind and help you drift comfortably off to sleep. This plants a seed for your subconscious mind to process in the night, increasing the likelihood you'll dream about it once you're asleep. Tonight we're going to find a sunny spot in the Bo-Kaap, a small neighborhood of Cape Town, tucked away from the noise of the CBD in the fold of Signal Hill. So when you're ready, find a spot, settle in, and make yourself comfortable. Make sure wherever you are that you're in a position that will be easy to doze off in. Take a deep breath in and let it out. Another breath in and out. Let your breathing fall into its natural rhythm and start to relax your mind. There's nowhere else you need to be. Nothing you need to worry about besides being here, right now. Relax your face. Let your shoulders melt down. Let the tension melt from your neck. With every exhale, let your whole body feel heavy and sink deeper into the bed or chair. There's something so wonderful about the simplicity of a walk, the pace of nothing much to do, nowhere to be, letting your eyes and mind wander as you stroll, not focused on what's next, not focused on anything in particular, really. Just being in the simple joy of right now, unhurried and unbothered by the rush of life. And where better to take a sunny stroll than through the historic Bo-Kaap? Climbing the stairs up to the Bo-Kaap and away from the busy street below, car horns and construction fade. Having been built on the slopes of Signal Hill lifts the Bo-Kaap up and away from the chaos of the city below. Bo-Kaap means Upper Cape after all. Here, the air is filled with much softer sounds. People going about their business, the bird call of conversation as neighbors greet and children laugh. It's the usual sounds of a community alive with connections. Famous the world over for its iconic, brightly painted homes and unique local culture, it's hard not to feel the history here and consider your place in all of it. It's late afternoon, and the sun hugs the street with a bright, warm glow that makes the shades and shadows all the more dramatic. Bo-Kaap is a small suburb, but one of the oldest in the city. The houses here have watched unchanged by time, while new buildings shoot up in the city, rising up like glass bamboo again and again. The origins of the Bo-Kaap stretch back as early as the 18th century. People from as far as Malaysia, Indonesia, and the rest of Africa were brought here as slaves, forced to live and work in the Cape. Some of the very same houses still stand. There are few stories told why and when they were first painted so brightly. One is that when the houses were first leased to the slaves, the masters never gave any thought to the homes or the people that lived in them, and so they stayed bare, white. But when the slaves could finally buy their own homes, they painted them bright colors, marking their freedom with brushstrokes of joy, announcing to anyone with eyes who could see it, "We live here." Families here have roots going back generations. The homes and streets here form the backdrop of stories told again and again. The details change depending on who's telling the story, but the homes and the streets where they happened, they're familiar. They're still there. As you stroll up the street, neighbors chat on their front verandas, watching their children play a game of impromptu cricket on the pavement nearby. There's time for catching up and checking in. Time for another story or one more cup of tea. There's more time for each other here, it seems. Walking up the road, you let your eyes run on ahead. Running up the road and through the stone-cobbled streets and higher still up Signal Hill. From this angle, the peak cuts through the horizon, rising like a sail out of water. Your eyes fly from the mountain to the clouds gathering on the summit like a head of white hair wispy in the breeze. It's soothing, standing here and watching the clouds form and vanish, slowly disappearing and reappearing right before your eyes. Looking out even further, your eyes run along the smooth flat line of the famous Table Mountain. The edges of the clouds sit on top of the mountain curl upwards, making it look just like a tablecloth whipping about in the wind. You bring your gaze back down from the mountain and take in the neighborhood. A row of small, brightly colored homes lines the street in a rainbow of colors that you can't help but smile. To say it's cheerful doesn't do it any justice. And warming or welcoming won't do any good either. Instead, you decide that perhaps there's just something special and singular, something completely unnameable about this place. Nearby, the aroma of spices fills the air and draws you in. It makes you turn and follow your nose to find where the smell is coming from. You follow the enticing perfume to the unassuming doors of the Atlas Spice Shop. It's one of the oldest spice stores in the city, and it blooms with an endless mix of familiar smells and ones you can't quite place. You drink in long breaths, trying to savor all the different flavors, listing off your favorite dishes, like trying to remember the words to a song or the name of a book you read long ago. There's cardamom, slightly nutty. It's aromatic and sweet. There's also cinnamon, like honey, but with something else, something spicier. It makes your mind wander to bowls full of warming biryanis and fresh samosas by the mouthful. Two men pass you on their way to mosque and smile. The crisp white of their thobes stands out against the solid colors of the houses, washing them in a soft hue of pink, then blue, then yellow, as they walk down the street. It's almost easy to miss the mosque on this rainbow street. It's a quieter shade of green, almost like olives, washed in the dappled shadows from the 4 tall palm trees that stand out front. There are a few things that bind the Bo-Kaap together. And faith is one of those strands. This mosque, the Al-Wal Mosque, is the oldest in the country and one of 11 in the Bo-Kaap. The melodious Sathan, the Muslim call to prayer, can be heard 5 times a day as it echoes through the air and in the streets, bringing solemn pause for just a moment. Walking further along the road, you peer through a window and watch as a woman rolls out her dough, twirling it like a hairbun before rolling it out again. She catches your eye and smiles warmly before going back to her cooking. She moves with the muscle memory of a pro, enough to let her attention go back to her friend, who continues to tell quite the engaging tale. Walking through the neighborhood, it's easy losing track of time. You haven't noticed the afternoon pass, and you haven't noticed the rain clouds gathering above you. And so you only notice the rain when a single drop lands like a tapping on your shoulder, then one on your nose, and hands, and head. It's not a heavy downfall, just a drizzle. But you move to find some shelter while you wait for it to pass. Beams of bright sunlight still burst through the clouds, so it can't be much longer. You find a small cafe and sit down and order something warm to drink. You found a spot near the window, which still gives you a chance to watch the street, life still unfolding outside. Neighbors huddle together in storefronts, and children gather their toys to shield them from the rain, while a few run back out with shouts of delight, darting back quickly to the safety of shelter. You let your mind wander again as you watch the rain running down the glass, forming rivers and tiny tributaries that run to ground. The rain patters on the roof above, covering the store in a calming blanket that muffles any of the sounds outside trying to get in. Looking out the window, the colors of the houses make a sort of rainbow hue that glows in the droplets that run down the pane of glass. You almost don't notice when the waiter brings you your tea and a small cook sister to enjoy with it, not too unlike a small donut hole rolled in coconut. It's a sweet, spicy treat. On Sundays here in the Bo-Kaap, it's almost tradition for neighbors to bake fresh batches and to sell them and share them. Perhaps that's one reason the Bo-Kaap feels special. There always seems to be enough, and no one goes without. You pick up the cook sister. It's still warm to the touch when you take a satisfying bite. It's soft and pillowy, and leaves your mouth with a taste of coconut. Perhaps this is where I'll leave you. Here, with a cup of tea and a sweet treat, in the soft chatter of this cozy cafe, while the rain pitter-patters softly outside, until you're able to visit the Western Cape again. One day.